should anybody aspire to be a common man, an average man? Do you realize what it means to be average? That means you're the best of the lousiest, and the lousiest of the best. Now, if we demand more and more for producing less and less, while the have-not nations encourage and inspire and indeed require hard work and maximum effort, if we deify the common men while they encourage and reward the uncommon ones, well, the end result of such a lopsided race as that is too obvious to require elaboration.
You stay classy, San Diego.
In fact, isn't Milwaukee an Indian name? Yes, Pete, it is. Actually, it's pronounced Milwaukee, which is Algonquin for the good land.
Let's go. Yes! No!
It's time now for
Yes!
or
No!
Hello, 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 hello. Okay, hold on.
Megatron, you are solid, man.
Speculation.
Hello, anybody home? Think, Bitcoin, think.
Pat Micheletti?
Is wearing women's underwear part of your journey?
He does.
He's the clown from Brown. He's the fourth in the north. This is the common man, Dan Cole.
Wilbur, the drum begins in 5, actually 3 but 5 sounds like more than 4. Ack-ack-a-dack, dack-dack-a-ack to you and yours. What is ack-ack-a-dack, dack-dack-a-ack? Well, it's your password for tomfoolery and skullduggery. It will also gain you admittance into a meeting of the Loyal Order of Water Buffalo. Ooh la la, ooh la la. I'm the common man, Dan Cole. This is the worst all-sports radio station in the country. So says a former employee who, funny, was fired from here. I'm a radio dinosaur, and the fan is my La Brea tar pit. Someday, archaeologists and paleontologists will be sifting through the rubble that will be 1600 Utica Avenue South, and they'll stumble across my skeletal remains with my cold, dead, rigor mortis-laden lips attached to this. We don't do the Neumann anymore. We went through 3 Neumanns, just blew right through them. They will find my cold, dead, rigor mortis-laden lips attached to this Electro Voice RE27, and they'll say, "Egad."
Doesn't have the same ring to it.
No, it doesn't. Egad. It's a social commentator with an archaic communication device, because years from now, it'll just be, you just think of something and it will be implanted in people's brains, right? You won't even have to turn on radio. You'll just say, I wonder what Common is going to say today. And then you go, you rub your temples, and all of a sudden it's all right there for you. Then you'll be able to put it in some type of a little compartment, right?
Yeah.
You'll stash it away somewhere.
It'll be like an artificial intelligence or unintelligent common man that just constantly gives you commentary all day.
Or you just put it back there, and then when you want to trigger it, there'll be some kind of, like, you'll tug on your earlobe, a la Carol Brunette. The next thing you know, it'll start. The show will start. You'll run it. You can stop it at any time.
Bewitched nose twinkle.
Right. Oh, you're familiar with Bewitched?
Oh, yeah. It's one of my all-time favorites.
Seriously?
I grew up watching Bewitched. I Love Lucy.
You did not.
I did. I swear I did.
You were watching
Lucy.
Hey, Lucy. Hey, Lucy.
Hey, Lucy.
Ricky Ricardo.
Oh, yeah. That was my jam. The Golden Girls.
Yeah.
Thank you for being a friend.
Oh, you were Golden Girls?
Oh, yeah. I got a picture of Blanche on my wall. At home. Yeah. All my friends think I'm the Blanche. I got no idea.
A fully clothed Blanche?
Fully clothed Blanche. So not in the true spirit of Blanche, but it is a Blanche nonetheless.
Yeah, I still, I live in the past. You know why? Because I don't like the president. I'm afraid of the future. So most of when I do watch television, what was that one guy? I don't drink beer very often, but when I do, it's the guy with the beard, the really sophisticated guy. Was it Dos Equis? Is that what he directed?
Oh, the most interesting man in the world. Yeah.
Was it Dos Equis?
I think that was it.
He said,
was it Captain Morgan?
He said, no, it was Dos Equis. He goes, I don't drink beer often, but when I do, it's Dos Equis. And I don't watch TV often, but when it is, it's, hey, Lucy!
Hey, Lucy!
I'll watch, I'm more of a Gilligan's Island, Gigans, that's what I grew up with. When you were a kid, is that what you kind of grew up with?
Oh yeah, I had a perfect blend of like natural '90s kids shows and cartoons, but then I was also watching a bunch of older sitcoms and stuff like that because we had Nick at Night, and now in the Boomerang channel, which showed the Flintstones and Jetsons and all that stuff, and it's a little alarming now because the Boomerang channel now shows the shows that I watched growing up, which is officially a sign that I am old. But yeah, my mom, TV One or TV Land or whatever it's called, that was on all the time. So we watched I Love Lucy, Bewitched, all that stuff.
And it's good stuff. I mean, the question always is people have, does it still hold up? Yes and no. Yeah. I mean, it's not the hip now with and while sexual innuendo that you have nowadays.
For sure. And there's some gender dynamics that wouldn't play in 2024.
Right. But it's still, they're generally, Jeff Cesario, who was a great program password player that the people really loved, especially Lil B. But, he wrote for the Dennis Miller Show. He did a lot of television.
Oh, really?
And I asked him once, I said, do you think, and I kind of, it was one of those leading the witness kind of questions, which most talk show hosts do. Have you ever noticed most talk show hosts, when they have somebody on to talk about a topic, it's usually a guy that supports their opinion?
100%, yeah. And then they lead them right into the answer. Like, don't you think that this is this and this and this and this?
And do you know why they do that? Because most talk show hosts think they're the smartest guy in the room, right? And they got all the answers. They're afraid that if they put somebody on who disagrees with them, they might get out debated, and then they'll be humiliated and embarrassed. Oh, I thought you knew it all. Then she sure got you. I've had Burke on before. Burke and I went back and forth. J. Lou.
Oh, J. Lou.
Yeah, J. Lou. J. Lou doesn't talk to me anymore. I was a gadfly. Well, it was years ago. We were texting back and forth, and I was trying to get him going, and he goes, "I'm done with you." Okay.
All right. Guess you got him going.
Yeah, I'm going well enough. But anyway, yeah. So, why was I talking about this?
We're talking about I Love Lucy, reruns, TV Land.
Yeah, but where was I going? I had something. I was going with something.
I'm not sure where you were going.
I don't
with that.
either.
Jeff Cesario?
Oh, that's it. Okay. And I asked Cesario, I said, do you think it would be harder to write TV back in the 60s when you had a lot more barriers, right? There were more, what do you want to call them?
Restrictions.
Restrictions, right? I mean, there was a time where you could not show, like on the Dick Van Dyke Show, starring Mary Tyler Moore. Have you ever heard of the Dick Van Dyke Show?
Oh, yeah, for sure. That used to come on Nick and Night as well.
Okay, Dick Van Dyke Show, really good story, but he was a television writer, and then he had two other writers with him, Rose Marie and Maury Amsterdam, right? Mm-hmm. And when they would show Dick and Mary Tyler Moore, their husband and wife, they couldn't show them in the same bed together.
That's right. They had the two beds next to each other, right?
They couldn't do it. It was
ridiculous.
Yeah, it was ridiculous, but that's the way it was back then. So I said, well, would it be tougher to write TV back then than it is today. I let him. I said, I think it would be tougher. He goes, you're absolutely right. He goes, he thinks it would be because your restriction. You got to now. It's most dramas and sitcoms are they're basically soft core porn. Most of them are, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, it is what it is because I guess everybody finds. Sexual jokes just the most hilarious thing ever. His knee slapping, boy, that's funny. Hey, did you hear what he just said? That's okay. That's what you enjoy. But I was a big fan of. I was a Jeegans guy, and
Jeegan.
Yeah, that's what Deuce calls him, Jeegans. Deuce might drop by today. He's got to get a haircut later, and he might drop by in that 2:00 hour. If he does, we might play a little licensed music.
Which means,
if we do, which means we can't put it on the podcast. That's our issue, folks.
So run to your radios right now.
If you want to listen to that segment or two from there, and it's going to be great radio, trust me. You, me, and Deuce. Oh, boy. It's going to have to be live because we're not going to put it on the podcast. It's down to 2. It's the Horn has been reborn and the Roar has been restored. Both were winners yesterday. NFC North looks like it's going to go right down to the wire. I might have some breaking news a little bit later, too. Before the Grum's over. But yeah, could be. But plenty to get to today. We'll talk about that. Also, Wolves and the Wild both kind of struggling a little bit here. And he's got the excuse computer going. Woe is me. Everybody's against me. So we got lots to get to today. We'll take a break. It's Phil and Fuller in for 10 to be on the Common Man program. Right here, we affectionately call FM 100.3 to Fan.
Join Bumper to Bumper's Justin Guard this Friday at 7 p.m. at Tom's Watch Bar for a KFAN Wolves watch party. We'll have Timberwolves versus Rockets live on the big screen, delicious food and drinks, and your chance to secure exclusive KFAN swag. Get all the details now at KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Should be a couple of 13-14 pastime common. My sources are telling me I'm reporting the NFL has made the decision. It is official now. The Minnesota Vikings Week 17 game against the Green Bay Packers has been flexed.
Oh.
It will be moved to 3:25 Central Time. The flex makes it America's Game of the Week on Fox, which means Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady will be on the call. This comes a week after the NFL declined to move the game to Sunday Night Football, regardless of what night, Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night. Because I've been waiting all day. Now I don't have to wait all day for Sunday night. I just have to wait all day till Sunday afternoon, late Sunday afternoon.
That ain't so bad.
It comes a week after the NFL declined to move the game to Sunday Night Football with some speculation that Fox had the ability to protect it because CBS had the first edition of Border Battle. So it looks like it's a 3:25 start. By the way, this is your Peek at the Purple, brought to you by our friends at Affordable Electric. Affordable Electric. Shockingly affordable. I had Nick over to the house to look at some things, and he's going to do some electrical work in my home. I've got in my laundry room. I got one of those fluorescent lights. It hasn't worked forever. It's the kind where you turn it on and it barely comes on. Then every once in a while it'll just pop on.
Just load up.
It'll load up. But most of the time it's not there, and I can't tell. It's so dark in there. I can't tell if I'm doing whites or darks anymore. So he's coming over and he's got a couple of other things he's going to do. But if you'd like some, and they're your old home specialists too. They do a lot of older homes. So if you would like to have some electrical work done, go to affordable-electric.com and do that. So the flex game, the game has been flexed. 3 results yesterday of importance to the Vikings. Of course, their game, the come from behind victory to beat the Seattle Seahawks by 3, or was it 4? No, it was 3. I don't remember the final. It was
27-24.
27-24, I believe. I think you're absolutely right. Motor City Kitties defeated the Chi-Town Bears rather comfortably, doubled up on them. I think 34-17 was the final there. And then the Washington Commanders did everybody a favor by beating
How about that?
The Philadelphia Eagles. I did not see any of that game. I was basically watching.
It was incredible.
The Vikings game. I did see highlights every time they would go to. Anytime something would happen there, they would give us the game break. And Hurts got hurt, pardon the pun, early in the game, right? Concussion protocol, and he was out.
Yeah, he was out pretty early in the game. It was 21-7 early on in the game. And I mean, Washington ended up having 5 turnovers by the end of the game. It looked like it was over until Jalen Hurts got hurt. And at one point, Kenny Pickett comes in the game and he leads them to the red zone, and the Eagles call a timeout. And it looks as though, and even the announcer said as such, that Jalen Hurts was going to come back into the game. And then it appears that someone on the sideline said, no. Yeah. Hold on 1 second. And then a few minutes later, they announced that he wasn't going to be able to come back into the game.
And so the game was detrimental to his health. And of course, him being out probably was detrimental to the Eagles 100%. Winning the game. Because my guess is Pickett was just ordinary at best.
Yeah, he was no good.
Yeah. All the Vikings do is win, and I hope yesterday's win against Seattle on the road will dispense with all this nonsense. People have so many paranoias about their teams, and I'm not just talking about Vikings and the Viking fans, and not all fans, but it seems like I would say a majority, maybe even a vast majority. It's probably all over the country, right?
Yeah.
Like when the Vikings, the 60-yard field goal attempt by Seattle was short, I tweeted ball game. Somebody tweeted back, how dare you? Like, I'm going to jinx the game. Like, let's say the Seahawks would have come back to win the game. Do you believe it would have been me tweeting ball game that would have been? Why do people? And then the other one was, we always have trouble beating Seattle. We haven't won there in 6, 7, 8 games, whatever it is. Like, that has nothing to do with the upcoming game. Now, I predicted a Viking win by a laugher, and it wasn't a laugher. It was close. It was it went right down to the wire, obviously.
Right.
But I'm sorry, I don't play that game of, well, we never beat them before, so you can't beat them in Seattle. It's been a long time, so I don't think we can beat them. That's just nonsense. This is a different Minnesota team, and it's a very good team, much better than I think almost everybody thought, and to varying degrees. I said I think at best they'll go 9-8. Well, they've obviously surpassed that by a long way. The experts in Vegas thought they'd be a 6 or 7 win team. And most other people
said 4.
Yeah, some said 4. So they certainly have exceeded expectations. The team will tell you that they expected this all along. I don't believe it. I don't believe any team that says, no, regardless of the team, regardless of the sport. I guess unless you really are loaded for bear, you're coming off a great season the season before. I can see where you believe that. I'm not suggesting they didn't think they wouldn't be pretty good, but I don't think any of them could have predicted 13-2 at this point. This was their 31st one-score win since 2022.
Wow.
That's the most in the National Football League. Exciting down to the wire finishes. And what Sam Darnold did yesterday was what I've always used as my barometer for judging how good a quarterback is. You can take your quarterback ratings and your touchdown to interception ratio and your yards gained and, completion percentage and tutties and all of those things. For me, it's what do you do when the game is on the line? Like yesterday, it's 4 minutes to go in the game. You're down 4 on the road. Hostile environment is the kids like one of my favorites. Always a hostile environment. Yeah, hostile environment.
It's not just loud, it's hostile.
It's a hostile environment. It's raining pretty steady. You're playing a pretty good club. Seattle's not great, but they're above average. They're 8-6 going into the game. Apparently they've been playing better as of late, even though they got bamboozled by Green Bay the week before.
And hanging around the NFC West lead.
Exactly. And Sam Darnold drove him down the field. Like 4 plays in 30 seconds. Now, the key play of the game was a penalty. Now, the Vikings still may have won the game, but, it's 2nd down and 10. Sudden Sam is sacked. So now it's going to be 3rd, and it's an 8-yard loss. It's going to be 3rd and 18. And the Murphy guy that sacked him grabbed his face. Clearly a face mask, the right call.
Yeah, it was crazy after the game that he tried to say it was a BS call. Brother, we saw it on national TV.
Your hand was on it. And now, again, maybe the Vikings convert on 3rd and 18. It's not like they haven't done that before, right? Especially when you got JJ and Addison, and the line was protected pretty good most of the game. I mean, again, there were moments where Sam was getting flushed. I think he got sacked a few times. I don't remember the exact sack count. I don't have the stats in front of me. But he stepped up in the pocket, and he threw a dime, as the kids like to say, and that was the game. But without that penalty, we don't know. But that's their fault. The other thing, and I'm going to give the Vikings credit for this. Did Seattle commit more false starts than any team in the history of pro football in a single game?
It sure felt like
How
it.
many were there? 5, 6, 7 of them? But I'll give the Vikings credit for that, and that's that B-flow defense when you've got all of a sudden there's 8 guys on the line, then 3 guys are jumping back, and you've had some trouble. You get jumpy on that line, right? You're sitting on it, and I think that's what happens is you're the offensive line of the opposition, in this case Seattle, they don't know what's coming. And they know they got to provide protection, and they get a little jittery, and they jump. So that 5 yards, that's a lot of yardage to lose. If you're in a 1st and 10 and now it's 1st and 15, now I was telling Deuce as we're watching the game though, I'm like, to me the false start, and I think it's the Vikings drawing them, making them because they're jumpy, they're edgy, but it's like 65 toss power trap on 2, ready, break. So you wait till he says, hut 1, hut 2, then you go.
Right.
I've always thought the false start, when I played, and I was a fierce pass rushing, Rocket Gibraltar run-stopping defensive lineman, and a precise route running, sure-handed pass-catching tight end. Yes.
I wish you would tell us this kind of stuff.
I played both sides of the ball. As a tight end, I was never whistled for false start or offsides ever in my 3-year career, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. Never.
You're built different, though.
Well, because I know it's on 3. So you go on 3. You don't go on 2 because you're nervous.
And to your point, this happens almost weekly, on a weekly basis now against opposing teams. I'm curious. I don't know how they would keep track of the stat, but I'm curious to see who has their opponents get penalized the most. I would assume the Vikings would be up there because it's almost every week now they're getting these key penalties in situations like the one you're describing.
Exactly. And Darnold was, again, he was rock solid. And if you are one of those that believes in the crunching those numbers, we'll do a little bit of that on the other side of the break. So Vikings win, Lions win. It's pretty simple. If the Vikings beat Green Bay, flex to 325 at the bank Sunday, and then beat Detroit, because even if Detroit loses to San Francisco, if Detroit were to beat Minnesota, I think they would be tied, and then I think Detroit has the tiebreaker. It drops down to the Rams game. Vikings lost to the Rams. Kitties beat the Rams. So that's what I think it would drop down to. So, but if both win this week, it's coming right down to it. So it should be interesting.
Showdown in Motown.
It is a showdown in Motown. We'll take a break. We'll come back with more on the Common Man program on the Fan.
Want to chime in on what's happening with your favorite KFAN program? Make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Brian text line. Let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard message and data rates apply.
Sammy Darnold was rock solid again. He was 23 of 35, 247, 3 tutties. There was 1 interception, wasn't there? Didn't he throw one?
I don't think he did.
That's right. Gino threw it.
Yeah, Gino threw one. Yep.
Through the
There were 2, I believe. One to Dallas Turner and one to Theo Jackson.
The one at the very end of the game.
I don't think Sammy's turned it over in a few weeks now, 4 or 5 weeks now.
I think, no, I thought I read there was one against the Bears, but it was like just kind of almost a throwaway. It didn't matter. It was one of those.
Oh, probably, I guess.
If you could look that up for me. I think he threw one against the Bears, but maybe I'm wrong.
You are correct. I believe that's probably, it's probably one of those ones that wasn't actually his fault.
Yeah. Quarterback rating of 112.3.
Ooh-wee.
That's 12 of his 15 games this year where he has had a quarterback rating of at least 103.5.
Hey.
At least. I think I saw a note that said in his entire career up until this season, he'd had 12 games with a quarterback rating of 103.5 or better, and now he's done it 12 times this year. Red zone, very efficient. 5 snaps in the red zone, 4 for 4 to 3 different wide receivers, 31 yards, 3 first downs and 2 tutties, 1 to Jets and 1 to Addison. Gritty was good again, 10 receptions, 148 yards, and 2 tutties. The Viking defense, again, they're really good. But like all defense, I mean, the one thing is you can't expect them unless there's a reason you recognize 85 Bears and the Ravens defenses and those things, because those were extraordinarily good, right?
Right.
The Vikings are really good defense, but there are going to be times where it's, like they weren't as sharp as they have been yesterday. There were moments like right before the half. Wasn't that where they drove down the field?
Yeah.
That's where Geno Smith, I think I had just, who was on the broadcast crew? It was Sanchez, the former Jets quarterback, right? And he was trying to compare Geno Smith's career trajectory with Darnold's, because again, both struggled early in their career, and then Geno had a really nice year last year. And I think I tweeted out, this is preposterous. Darnold has played much better than Geno has, even if you compare the 2 years. And why would, I said, let me ask Sanchez. I said, who would you rather have as your quarterback? Moments later, Geno Smith starts throwing dimes and these lasers up and down the field. They drive down the field, they score a touchdown. But the Vikings defense rises to the occasion when they need to. I mean, these are the numbers that I like. I mean, it's that old bend but don't break kind of a thing.
They're the definition of bend but don't break.
Seattle was 2 of 10 on third down.
Wow.
2 of 10. That's it.
You ain't going to win a lot of games being 2 for 10 on third down.
Week before, Chicago was 1 of 10. So when it comes to third down, they're rising to the occasion. The Vikings had no sacks until Van Ginkel had 2 in the fourth quarter. And I like a player, and again, they benefited from the face mask, but that's not their fault. But Darnold took them down the field and scored, because it did look like, well, Seattle might win this game now. I mean, they've got the lead. It's 4 minutes to go. If their defense can come up with a 3 and out, or at least just stop the Vikings and get the ball back, they might be able to run it out. But they weren't able to do that, and the Vikings win the game, and it was. I never, while the game was being played, did I doubt it until Seattle went ahead and the Vikings had the ball. And I wasn't writing the Vikings off. I go, well, we'll see now. Can they keep doing what they've been able to do most for under KOC? They've been able to win these one-score games. We talked about that. That's their 31st one-score win since 2022. That's the most in the National Football League.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible. So, I also wonder, is there conspiracy theories out there about, the headset goes out for KOC?
Oh.
Remember?
Yeah.
The headset goes out. Sam has to call his own play on the field. And it was the play he called, I think, was the tutty, right? That he threw the game-winning score.
I think he called the play that went towards out of bounds, and then he was able to converse with Kevin O'Connell.
I saw him talking to him. Okay. So maybe that was the play. Do you think Seattle messed with the headsets?
Ooh, hacked it a little bit? Some tomfoolery, some skullduggery? It's possible. Well, they're a desperate team.
Well, it's been... the Patriots have been accused of that kind of stuff forever.
Yeah.
It's not hard to do. Oh, headset went out. What a bad break. And then when one team's headset goes out, then whoever game day whoever these people are that do these things, they're supposed to shut down the other team's headsets too. So, but I don't know. I did not see an explanation anywhere whether it was a legitimate wire broke on the headset or something, or if all of a sudden it goes, okay, now's our chance to win. Have a headset malfunction. I don't know what happened. Technology doesn't always work. Sorry about that. I don't know if that accusation's been made, or suggestion anyways, but
you never know.
You do never know. So yeah, and it's now it comes down to the flex game against Green Bay. I think that's the toughest game left on the schedule. I really truly do. I did write Detroit off after all the defensive injuries. I thought they would struggle. And look, it's like they had a bye week yesterday. They played the Bears. That's not, it's still a win, but again, the Bears aren't too terribly good right now. Is that
They've
9 in a row now? Yeah.
Well. They're not a good team, and they're not mentally or physically or emotionally in it. They've quit.
Is that a 9th consecutive loss for the Bears? It's either 9 or 10.
I think
they were 4-2, and now they are 4, and they've not won since then, right?
They haven't won. Yes, they're 9th in a row. I believe they have not won since they lost that Hail Mary lost on that Hail Mary to Washington. I believe that was kind of the spirit, the soul breaker, the spirit ripper.
Well, there were I think Lions were 5-1, Vikings were 5-1, something like, I don't know, maybe they had a bye week.
Right around there too.
They were like 4-2 or 5 whatever. And then the Bears went from this is going to go right down to the wire. And they've lost ever since then. I think Detroit could struggle, and now San Fran's out of it, so you never know. I still think historically, as I've watched football, even if a team like San Francisco's out of it, it's not like they mail it in.
Right.
Generally, they don't. They still want to try to play, and because there's some pride there, at least some.
And there's guys on the team that are looking to make some tape for next year, make some money for themselves, stay on the team.
May have bonuses that they can reach if they get another sack or do this or
They might call John. They might call his wife.
I don't know.
It's a bonus job.
Yeah, I heard it. You go ahead and give yourself a rim shot. These young kid jokes, I don't know, they kind of go over my head, I don't know. I know. Is McCaffrey completely out?
I think he's done. Yeah,
so he's done for the year.
And they're out eliminated, so they have no reason to bring him back.
Right. So you never know, but just like for argument's sake, if the Lions do beat San Francisco, obviously the Green Bay game's a must-win for the Purple because, again, even if the two teams finish tied, I think Detroit wins the tiebreaker. So, and Green Bay is, again, they're... And that's, when you talk about the fears that fans always have when we've never beaten Seattle, there's always this, we're 0-4 in the Super Bowl, this, that, and the other thing. It's always the worst. The nightmare scenario is getting beat by Green Bay and not being able to win the division because of the Packers. Because there's a big jump from if the Vikings win 2 in a row, they got to bye in the number 1 seed. Their home field advantage throughout. They lose one of those games and Lions win out.
You're going to Tampa most likely.
Yeah, you're going somewhere as the 5th seed. And you got to win everything pretty much on the road unless you somehow face the 7th seed. I don't know how that would even work, but they're in a good spot. I mean, they're playing as well as any team out there. And I do want to address, I get these text messages from people all the time and in emails and such like, you can't have 2 favorite teams.
Sure you can.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, because I was born in Detroit, so I've been a lifelong Lions fan. I've also been a Vikings fan ever since when they were going to big games in '69 and in the '70s, I was always rooting for the win the big game. Detroit's my team, but they're not there, so I'm a Vikings fan.
Yeah,
so
why not? These are arbitrary rules made up by people. That's
it. Just because you were born and raised or brainwashed to think you could only have one team to root for, I'm sorry, you're in a bad spot then, man. Because some people think that's the definition of fandom. I have one team through thick and thin, and I never leave them. There's a sucker born every minute, as I think it was P.T. Barnum said it. I think it was, or maybe it was W.C. Fields. But so for me, it's kind of the best of both worlds because neither team has won the big game. Hell, Detroit's not ever been to one.
Right. Well, that's the other thing. You're not picking. It's not like your two favorite teams are the Lions and then the New England Patriots or the Boston Celtics or the Yankees or something. Yes. You picked 2 equally miserable franchises.
Yes, yeah. The Vikings obviously have been much more successful since I've been paying attention. Now they've not won a big one, but they've been to 4 NFC. They've been to 4 big games. They've been to NFC Championship games. Lions have been a terrible team in a terrible city for terrible fans. Now, overall, the franchise, of course, have been around a lot longer. You go back to they won their first title in '35, and then they won 3 of them in the '50s. So they do have 4 world championships. The only problem is they didn't come with a Lombardo trophy, and they also were never shown on color TV. It was always black and white. Oh, wow. So it's been that long, but now, someone just said this, and they're right. There's a text message that says, I don't think I'd call the next 2 games the Vikings must win. They're locked in the playoffs at this point. Sure, it'd be nice to have home field advantage, but they're definitely not must-win games. No, they're must-win if you want to win the division and you want to get home field advantage throughout. That's what I'm talking. Yeah, they're locked in. Philly's locked in. Detroit's locked in. There's a lot of teams that are locked in now, but you still want to improve your seed. But you're right. Technically, you're right. They are not must-win games. You are going to you're in the. And again, Teams have done it. Teams have won on the road and got to the big game. And, you know, we always bring up the example of the Giants. 9-7 wild card team, won 3 on the road and went and beat New England and handed them their first and only loss in the big game. So it can be done. So yeah, well, that's the beauty of it. You know, I've brought this up on several occasions, and I know I'm not bringing up anything anybody hasn't thought about, but it's the beauty of the football playoffs. It's just it's one and done, man. Anything can happen. A 6 seed can win it all, because they put it all together, a couple of crucial turnovers, and then in a couple of games in a row, the next thing you know, you're in the big game. Hope everybody's happy about the college football playoffs. Boy, you know what? We really need a playoff system. I know 4 is not enough. We need 12 so we can really determine who the best team is. Did you see how bad those games were?
They were awful. Unwatchable.
They were unwatchable, is what they were. They were all below. I think one game was there one of them was a 10-point game?
Yeah,
but it really wasn't.
Indiana Notre Dame, yeah, but it wasn't. They didn't have a chance.
Well, no, the Texas game also was. I think the Texas game was a 10 or 13-point game, wasn't it?
It was 14. Yeah, 14 it was 14.
Point
yeah.
Game.
So still 2 scores.
Yeah, 2 scores, but none of them felt like. I mean, there was never any.
There was no March Madness like magic of an upset or or a shootout or any even illusion of these games being competitive whatsoever.
And it's why some of us suggested that. I think I have the. Here it is right here. I saved this note. The average final score in the 4 NCAA football playoffs was 36-17.
Yikes.
In 4 games, not a single one was closer than a 10-point margin, and even that one felt worse. In 240 minutes of action spread across those 4 games, there was a grand total of 1 lead change. This bold new experiment was supposed to bring more programs from the parts of the country into the loop of a largely regional sport that had been dominated by about a half a dozen teams for the last decade, and that's going to continue to be the case, as we're seeing again. There are certain teams that are going to die. Every once in a while, another team might come in there for a year or 2, and I suppose with nil, it could change. If you could find a school, like, for instance, the Wyoming Cowboys, you know, I suppose if some well-heeled somebody started, you know, throwing around $100 million a year, you know, that you might end up building a pretty good team because you're paying the best players pretty good money. But that's why I kind of just rolled my eyes. I mean, if you like the playoffs, that's great. And I understand why. People just didn't like that mythical national champion where the sports writers would vote who the best team in the country is, right?
Right.
I kind of liked that. I thought it was funny. It was kind of cool, you know, wait for the next day after all the bowl games are done. I wonder who they're going to vote for, you know. But we in this nation, we have to have finality. We have to have it decided on the field, and that makes sense. I'm not even against it. But everybody thought this was just this be-all, end-all, was do this 12-team tournament. We're going to see some great action. Now, I suppose next year it could change, and those first 4 games on opening weekend could all be real close, but I wouldn't expect it, folks. It's now maybe we're down to 8 teams, right? Now we're down to 8.
Yeah,
from 12 to 8. Yeah, we're down to 8. Now we might see something like the Ohio State University against Oregon. Should be a really good football game. Right? Yeah. I mean, they played earlier this year. It was a 1-point game. So it should be good. But I hated to tell you I told you. Well, actually, I don't like. I like telling you I told you so.
Yeah, college football doesn't usually play out like that. Like basketball, like you said, or like we talked about before, there's all these different examples of a crazy upset in the March Madness tournament. But college football almost never plays out like that. There's the haves and the have-nots, and the haves beat the hell out of the have-nots.
You're a big Julius Randle guy. You always loved him, didn't you?
My God.
What about Ant? Is that he had a expletive-filled?
Yeah.
He was whining.
He was. He has kind of been all season.
Yeah, he's fallen into that trap of everybody's against me. The referees are against me. I'm stronger than all of them, but now they're penalizing me because I'm stronger. What did that mean? Like he's physically stronger, and so when he drives into I don't understand. But I'm sure he's going to get fined.
100%.
He said it was the 2 dudes, not the chick. He didn't say chick. He said, well, it's not the woman. It's not the woman.
But it was funny that he tried to kind of save some face in that moment.
It wasn't her. It was the two dudes that were jobbing me. And it's like, now the officials are living in his head. He's got that big meow syndrome, bodega cat. Because remember, bodega cat felt the same way. And it is amazing how every single player feels like they've never committed a foul in their career.
Right.
And that anytime they miss a shot or go to the basket doesn't go in, well, they were fouled. How can you not see it?
And Ant is one of the most egregious. I know we in Minnesota, we got a chance to see some of the top tier whiners in the sport playing against Devin Booker in the playoffs, playing against Nikola Jokic and then Luka Doncic. Ant is, especially this year, is not any better. I mean, there's times where he didn't get back on defense because he was still arguing with the referees about a non-call on offense. His emotional maturity has just been. There's times where it shines through, and you could tell, like when he called the team out, and a lot of people questioned it, but it seemed like that was what the team needed. They went on a little bit of a run after that, but then there's other times where you see that he's still just a kid, man, and he's not quite ready to be the emotional kind of leader that this franchise needs him to be in the very near future, if not right now. You know, I don't generally like talking about myself on the air, but I'm going to make an exception here. I would do this when baby brother Peter played basketball, right? So I watched I rarely missed a game. So I had to miss some of the out-of-staters because I just couldn't be taking time off to fly to Atlanta, Dallas, Las Vegas. Yeah, they got these
weekend,
kids flying everywhere these days.
They're going everywhere. But anyway, so I loved going down, especially in AAU games or travel basketball. I would always, by the way, can you blow the horn for me again after when I say this? I'm the only parent I ever saw that went down and talked to the refs after every game just saying, great job, guys. Even if I didn't think they did a great job, I told them that. I'm the only one that would do it.
See, and of course, smart.
And when because it's a thankless job. They're not getting paid very much, and they're getting berated by parents and coaches. Again, it's the old, we don't commit fouls, the other team does. It's like you always think that the refs got it out for you, right?
Right.
And it permeates over to the ants and everybody else where the refs have it in for us. So I used to like to, but it was always funny when I would approach them and they're over at their folding chairs, getting ready for their next game, having a drink of water, and they see me coming, and I could just see it in their faces. Oh my gosh, I'm about to get berated. You guys, like I was going to give them a hard time. It was just the opposite, right? But a couple of the guys I would go up to and say, you call a foul on number 12. My boys never committed a foul ever. And they look at me and I go, I'm just kidding. And they would laugh. They loved it. My boys never committed a foul. But that's what these players think. They think they never commit a foul, and they're always fouled every time. And that's part of the problem with the league where it gets a little old. And to this point, it could change, but they miss Bodega Cat. And Julius Randle is not filled into that role. And you were about the only one that, I
got ripped just 2 weeks ago when we were on these very airwaves when I was with you, and I said that the Wolves should look to be sellers at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
The text line ripped me. Give it some time. Give it some time. Okay, it's December.
How much more time are we supposed to give it?
And we're supposed to have a championship window. The whole point is that the time is now. We don't want to give it time.
Yes.
And the window has abruptly closed.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. And when they made the trade, I understood it, but I didn't like it.
Right.
Because, and look at, and I've had people on the KFAN text line rip me, accuse me of being a fraud, guilty. There were times where I thought, Cat just, when he was doing all the whining and pouting and wouldn't play defense, he'd come and he'd go, and there was a time I said, maybe it's time to move this guy. This just isn't working.
I think a lot of people that watch Timberwolves games over the last 8 years, at one point or another, felt that way about Cat, the emotional person. But we didn't realize, some people didn't realize how much the Wolves would miss Cat, the offensive force. Well,
and not just the offensive force, but also, and remember, even last year their offense wasn't great, and they had Cat. But I think he was kind of the emotional leader. I think everybody respected him because he'd been here from his whole career had been here. He never whined, he whined officials, but I mean, he never asked for a trade. Right. I think it hit the team harder than and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're fine with it, but it was 3 days before training camp. And I'm sure they're all thinking, we're running it back again. We got the band back together. And all of a sudden, one of the key cogs of the team, the guy that had been forever, and I get it, the money part, but I think it's hurting them more. And I suppose it could change, but it doesn't look good right now.
No, it doesn't look good right now. And almost all of the pros, when you're making a pro-con list of the Karl Anthony Towns trade, none of them are playing out because you think hypothetically, well, it's to make more room for Naz Reid to play. He's not playing any more than he did before. Well, it's to re-sign free agents like Naz and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Are they even going to want to come back here?
Right.
After the way the Wolves have been playing this year. And oh, by the way, the Wolves have never, ever, not once in franchise history signed a superstar player during free agency. And then the Julius Randle thing, it just doesn't end up working out, and he's more than likely going to be traded or walk away for free.
Yeah, it's sad, really. Well done.
Thank you.
I thought everything you did, I just didn't know how to say it.
Exactly. Well, I stole it from your notes.
Well, and of course, I've only watched one Wolves game all year. That was the Bodega Cat game, and he was really good.
Yeah, 30 and 20.
Yeah. We'll break. We'll come back. We'll do some 5-3-4. We'll do a very short version because the head coach, Kevin O'Connell, expected to do his day after the game news conference at 1:15. So we want to get out about 1:10 in case he starts on time. He probably won't, but we want to catch all of it. So we'll take a break and come back with more after this here on The Fan.